Hey y'all, and welcome back to a new video. Today we're going to be looking at a chess game that I played recently, which I ended up getting into a pretty good position, at least I thought. The position was actually almost lost for me, and yeah, we're just going to get into it. I start off the game with d4, my opponent goes knight f6, and I decide to go with the move bishop to g5. After g6, I play my main line. I play bishop takes f6, e takes f6, and I decide to play for the center here with the move e3. Trying to solidify the square on c4, trying to play g3, knight c3, knight e2, and bishop to g2, where white will normally get a pretty strong play. This is very, very common in a lot of these Trompowsky lines, especially after d5. Many of these happen, but yeah, let's just see what happens. My opponent decides to go f5, which is completely reasonable. He's trying to put the bishop on g7, make sure it has an open line. I decide to play the move g3 because it's what I'm supposed to do here. Bishop g2 is the main idea. The bishop is much better on this diagonal than it ever will be on this, since it won't be able to, if I can draw arrows, since it won't be able to attack anything over here, right? So the bishop would be better looking at this side of the board. So bishop g2 is the idea. Bishop to g7, my opponent plays. Bishop to g2, d6. I decide to go with a knight to e2. Knight d7. c4, c6, and knight b to c3. And I've kind of gotten all that I want out of the opening. Apart from a couple more moves. Knight of 6 castles. And castles. Here we are in a pretty standard position in many Trompowsky defenses. What white wants to do in these positions is, in all honesty, you want to kind of bring the rook to the center. And you kind of want to, you kind of want black to make the first move here. You want to do something about the center. You want to go either d4, d5, or c5. And there's like a couple lines here where it can get a little bit crazy, a little bit positional. Sometimes white can go with some b4, a4, and get some attack with like b5 in some positions to try and open up the queen side. But it's on all honesty very complicated, and it's a little bit difficult to come up with a plan here with white if you haven't seen the position very often. And yeah, I was kind of feeling a little bit lost here. The best move in this position is b4, which is pretty natural, right? You want to play b5. You want to play either c5 or b5. Either way, both moves make sense. And I decide, okay, well, if I can't really come up with a plan, I'm just going to play another improvement move. We played rook to c1, which is fine. Putting the rook on the c file, this move makes a lot of sense to me. And yeah, we're doing totally fine. Rook to e8. I decide after a little bit that I'm just going to play the move queen to c2, which simply is trying to stop this knight from coming to this square, and I'm basically baiting him into playing some sort of move in the center. Of course, this would be really bad for my opponent because I'm just able to immediately win the pawn here after something like this, right? Hit everything. He doesn't have enough defenders for the pawn, but let's say, like, okay, he plays c5, right? This opens up my bishop too much, and he really shouldn't be able to do this. I shouldn't be allowed to do this because you're getting all of my pieces in the game. Right, so I'm kind of baiting him. It's a little bit of a game of cat and mouse here. It's a little bit difficult to play if I don't really know exactly what I'm doing. So yeah, I make some mistakes. Bishop to d7, and I get a little bit too big for my britches here. I really should have gone for a c5 or a b5 idea. The move b4 is still very strong here. This is the only plan the engine ever gives. And for something like h5, which is another common plan for black trying to get over at my king, I can play a move like b5, right? Can't take because after cb5, bishop to b5, this is just very strong. Sorry, what am I talking about? Hanging a bishop, what am I doing? No, but like you can't really take that. You're opening up my bishop too much, even if the pawns are normal here. Like you can play rook b8, but this is just not very strong. Like, for example, I can play the move a4. I hope I'm not blundering anything. It's a huge mistake. Great, I love it. Queen b3 makes more sense. And it's a pretty interesting position, but white is clearly better, right? So this is like really the main plan of the position, and I mess up here with an entirely different plan where I try to instead go for something a little more direct and down the middle. And I played the move d5 after some thought, which is a seriously bad move, but at the time I thought, okay, it's fine. Of course he's going to play c5. He does it. And I thought, well, Now, after the c5 idea, this pawn is a little weak. I might be able to play some a3, b4 at some point. I'm gonna play maybe some like piece going up to the b4, b5 square, because I mean he made a hole in his position for that. I don't know. I might also try to play for this move at some time. I kind of want to play that move now since he doesn't have any of this, and I made this pawn a backwards pawn. So I mean the logic is there. But the computer really doesn't like this, because after like an idea like a3, which I decided to play in the game, of course the clear idea is to play the move b4 and target his center little blockade here. After a6, I'm just in a lot of trouble. I'm in a decent pickle here, and it's not too easy, because if we're looking at the position exactly, a6, right, it's a multifaceted move. He's trying to stop this move, first of all, but also he might be trying to play b5 himself, which is genuinely incredibly dangerous for me. And I wasn't really respecting the danger here, so I just played b4 automatically. Yes, b4 is the best move, but it's not really as strong as I would have wanted. I was really expecting him to do something a little crazy, like maybe play b5 here. I was genuinely considering this, but like this actually just makes it into a very simple game. Like this is one of the positions I was looking at. Like I get this passer, and I might be able to play like d6 and open some stuff up, like rook b8, and I don't know. Take a b. He has these two pawns here that might be strong in an endgame. I have this one that might be strong in an endgame, probably just going to be lost. And in all honesty, looking at this position just from afar, which I did in the game, I thought that this was just not enough. I didn't think this was correct for me. So after the move b5, if he would have played it, I honestly don't know what I would have done. Maybe I would have played queen to b3. This was something I was considering. But it's tricky. It's tricky. But instead of the move b5, he decides to play the move rook to c8. And this, even though it was the best move, struck me as something a little bit odd, because rook to c8, speaking normally, I'm not too worried. I don't think that this is too much of an issue. Of course, his threat is to take, and then take the pawn on c4, so I can't allow that. But at the end of the day, I wasn't really too worried. Like I can play queen to b3. At the very least, I can play queen to b3, defend the pawn, like takes. This is even like already bad for him, right? He's already lost so much of his advantage. I'm gonna play the move knight a4, and I'm gonna try to play it for c4 in the future. And in all honesty, I feel like white is doing slightly better here, because white has more of the pawn breaks. But even like h5, right? Like going off on the other side of the board gives black a very slight advantage, which I really wasn't evaluating correctly during the game. But after rook to c8, I thought for a little bit, and decided, okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take on c5 first, which is fine. I'm going to take on c5, and whatever way he's going to take back with, I'm going to like respond to that properly. And I thought that he took back in the wrong way. He takes back with a rook, which is actually the best move. Again, me messing things up. But the reason why I thought this was wrong is that after the queen b3, which I played pretty quickly, I think, yeah, played pretty quick, 2 seconds. Played this pretty quickly. I'm like, okay, well, the rook's not really targeting anything, and now this pawn is just a forever weakness. Like, he's isolated his pawn now, which is why I thought this wasn't that good, and I thought maybe taking with the pawn was better. Of course, this gives me a strong passer, and that was honestly kind of what I was banking on. I thought this was probably what he had to do. I'd play rook b1, and like go for knight a4, maybe knight up to this square, right? And I mean, like, for me, this position is better for white. It's just better for white. But rook takes c5, queen to b3, and in all honesty, in this position, I was getting happy with my position. I thought I was better. Queen to c8, of course, going after the pawn. I decided to play knight to a4, which I thought made a lot of sense because, well, the knight is going after the rook, and he has to trade his bishop for my knight, which is nice because now he's gotten rid of his bishop pair. But even just looking at this properly, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of his 7 pawns on the light squares, and I'm letting him trade a light squared bishop for a knight. Probably not correct. Maybe I should have gone knight to a2. No, I guess not. Knight b1 makes a little more sense then. Trying to maybe reroute the knight this way if he allows me. But like even here, I was like looking at this, like knight e4, I can't do that anymore. We sure this is really what I want? Like, okay, we play rook fd1. I don't like this position. I don't think anyone really likes this position. This is just bad. This is like just objectively bad. So we're not going to go for this. And after knight to a4, bishop takes a4, queen takes a4, I'm already lost. I'm already losing. And it's actually pretty simple. There's nothing I can do. Knight to d7 is a very easy move. He simply is trying to get to this square. Let's say queen back to b3. Now he plays knight to e5. He doesn't care about that square anymore. He goes for this square. And I can't defend the pawn. I can't defend the pawn. And if I play rook to c1, well, then he goes here. Well, okay, well, let's see. I don't hang the rook. We'll move rook to c2. Then he goes here, right? And I'm losing the pawn. I'm losing the pawn. Probably just knight takes on c4. What are we doing? What are we doing? I've just lost the pawn for like nothing. And I thought my position was so much better. It looks smart here, but I mean just b5. There's nothing. There's nothing here. I'm just losing. So I'm a little bit concerned. I'm a little bit concerned. Well, I mean, I'm not a little bit concerned. I wasn't concerned during the game, but I thought that I was. But I didn't. You can see how I didn't really realize how everything was going on. And after my opponent goes with the second best move, knight to g4. This is a little bit less of a tricky move than knight to d7 because knight to d7 has two ideas, here and here. And knight to g4 only has one idea, which is here. Yeah, this isn't looking too good for me. I realize his plan in this position. I'm still cognizant enough to realize what he's doing. He wants to put the knight on e5 and like go after my pawn. So I decide, okay, after a little bit of thought, I decide, okay, I have like no way of defending the pawn if he gets there. We have to do something about that. So I play rook to c2. And after knight to e5, I play rook f to c1, which is my whole plan. And now the pawn is defended, and I was incredibly worried about the move knight to d3 in this position, which I thought could probably win the game. Knight d3, I would play like, I don't even know. I can't play here because of this fork, right? So I have to play with rook to b1 and like b5. And there's a pin on my rook, and I'm lost. I'm like dead lost here. Like I don't even think I have a move. I don't even think I have a move, which is crazy. So in this position, I kind of knew. I was still holding out hope that he wouldn't see everything, but I knew that it was just over. I was just gonna lose a pawn, and then I would probably lose the game. But if I get a couple more moves, I might be able to save something. Rook to e7, and he gives me a chance. Rook e7, and he gives me a nice little chance here. He's trying to play this move, of course. But I realized here that I have enough time to defend the pawn, and I think I have enough time to defend it well. I go with the move knight to d4 pretty quickly. Completely lost again. Knight d3 just wins. Maybe I should have gone knight to f4, but I was worried about like g5, right? Like this seemed pretty powerful. G5, and then what? I've wasted a tempo. No, we're not. I'm not going to do this. I am not going to waste the tempo. Right. So knight to d4. Knight to d4. Still, knight d3 is very strong here. Rook to b1. I think I'm just losing. Actually, not in this position. Oh, he has bishop takes d4. Oh, that's actually very cool. Bishop takes d4. E takes d4. b5. Ooh, that is really rough. Really bad for me. Probably here. B takes c4. I thought I maybe have like, I don't even know, queen b6 maybe, going after some pawns, but I guess just rook takes c4, and it's just over. I didn't even see this move at first. Rook takes c4. B takes c4, not queen takes c4. Oh man. And, oh yeah, b takes c4 because of course the knight outpost is very powerful. But yeah, this is just ridiculously bad. But I had an idea with knight d4. And my opponent misses his best move. Rook e to c7. Alright, if you're going to play rook e to c7, just defend the pawn. Bishop f1. Now what I've done, I've stopped knight to d3, and I've defended the pawn. And I am winning. Well, not winning. I'm okay. I've survived. I've survived now. Plus, he doesn't have any like weird pins because, well, this pawn is always like the knight always defends the rook. Can't do that because, well, I have too many defenders. So I thought, okay, I'm doing well. And then h5, and then I blender the game away immediately. Knight to c3 blunders. Knight to b3 blunders. Sorry. And I just totally miss it. I totally miss why this is a bad move. H5, obvious idea. It's very, very common in these positions. He's trying to play H4. Um, just beginner lesson here. Of course, H4, you shouldn't take like this. Let's just say I gave him another move. Queen B3, H4. Taking this is probably incorrect for white, because these pawns are actually much more weak now. The king is a little bit open, and you've lost stability. See how, like, even if I win a pawn here, I'm not doing that well. That means basically that my position is not very good, since I have the extra pawn, but he has full compensation for it, so that means he's very, very active. And yeah, g takes h4 is not good. G takes h4 is not good. First of all, he can immediately win the pawn, and we don't want to do that. But let's say why I play knight b3. I played the move knight to b3 because I thought I was trapping the rook. Knight to b3. Right, we trap the rook. Knight to b3. The rook has no escape. The rook is stuck on all sides of it. Trapped by its own pieces and mine, of course. And in this position, I didn't realize that the very, very simple move here, I realized this immediately after I played it, the very, very simple move that opens up here because of the move knight to b3, just moving the knight in between my queen and my rook, and moving that away from the defense of the rook. Now there's a pin, and rook takes d5 would win. It would win the game. It would simply put, it would win the game. And I saw another line too, which he played. And this is very difficult. b5. And yeah, this is just losing now. I have to play queen to b4. If I played this move, this is just clearly bad after knight takes c4, hitting the queen. The queen is like nearly trapped. Bishop takes c4, rook takes c4, rook takes c4. I've lost a pawn here, but it doesn't matter because we're trading everything, so this position is just dead lost for white. So we can't go into that. So I have to play queen to b4. Queen to b4, and I saw a very, very simple move here. I thought my opponent was just going to take on d5. I thought this was just a better version of it. Now he takes on d5, and my queen is just out of the game. She's in like a forking spot. So this is just terrible. Queen to b4, and rook to d5 would be lights out for me. But my opponent here does not believe, or didn't see, that rook takes d5 is a real thing, and decided instead, okay, my rook is trapped, I'm gonna desperado it. Rook takes c4, and I got lucky. Oh my god. After this move came on the board, I was just so happy, because he thought for 34 seconds on this move. So I was just so sure that he would see it. But he doesn't. After bishop takes c4, pawn takes c4, and the move queen to d6, I'm better. But I'm not better. By the way, queen to d6 is a little bit of fun. You can't take the knight because of the cheeky little pin here. And yeah, if you move all your pieces, I'm just going to move my knight out of the way. I'm actually losing here, which is pretty funny. I'm losing here to the knight d3, which I looked at, but after rook to d1, I wasn't really sure why, but yeah, bishop to e5. This is difficult to see. I didn't see this at all. Like queen to b6 and c takes b3, bishop takes c7. Sorry. Rook c6 is the only move. I'm attacking the knight, and yeah, I'm just down 2 pieces. There's nothing to be done. Yeah, but that would be an interesting line. It'd be funny if he played that. Yeah. Instead, of course, he goes with the normal move that I expect from him at this point. He decides to play rook to d7, which on the surface makes a lot of sense, but it doesn't make sense paired with my next move, which is the simple move queen to c5. Going with my knight, hitting the queen, so of course you still can't take my knight, I would take the queen, and after the queen trade like this, white would be considerably better, because here, knight takes a6, I have a passer, you go rook to a5, I probably play like knight to b4, and you can like take the pawn, but now at this point I'm able to get their open file, and I kind of stopped calculating. I stopped calculating after just this position because I thought, okay, well, if he ever goes over here, I get the file. And I just thought it was better. So, okay, why not? He can't do that. That's lovely. Well, then what is he going to do? Besides queen b7, which makes sense a lot. But I'm sure this was the wrong move. Queen to b7. Queen to b7. The point of it is that he's able to get in another attacker on the on my pawn on d5, which makes sense, right? He wants to do that, and he's also unpinning himself, so he's attacking my knight at the same time. But if he plays queen to if he plays queen to b7, why would he not play queen to a8? This just seems much better, because queen to a8 at this point, queen to a8. Now there's no knight a5 attacking the queen. There's no knight a5 attacking the queen, so I would just have to do something like drastic here. Like, this move is already lost, by the way. Here, he gets this nice fork at the very least, attacking my rook and my queen. And at the very most, actually, rook takes d4, here, knight f3, and I'm like getting mated. It's just kind of fun. I'm just getting mated. He's threatening checkmate like this, all the way over to this square. You know, that's tough to see. That's tough to see. I didn't see that, but of course, I wasn't going to calculate this all out when he didn't even play the move queen to a8. Of course, I expected queen to a8, but he instead goes for the move queen to b7, allowing knight to a5, and now white is simply winning, and the rest of the game is actually pretty simple. Queen takes d5, queen takes d5, rook takes d5. I'm able to pick up the pawn on c4. Now I'm simply up in exchange. There is no compensation for it, so nothing to be done. He decides to trade, which I would not recommend in this position. In all honesty, I don't know what I would recommend, because this is really bad. But maybe like, I don't even know, knight f3, king g2, and knight g5, for example. Just keeping the knight on the board by any means necessary. But of course, this is just completely losing. So instead, takes on c4, rook takes on c4, bishop to b2, going after both the pawns. And I saw a neat little line that allows me to get a little bit of play. And I'm very happy with my technique here. Rook to c8, king g7, and I play rook to 1 to c6, going after the pawn. a5, which is reasonable. I decide to play the move a4, defending my pawn while putting it on a light square. Bishop a3, I go rook to b6. The idea is to put the rook on this square in some lines, and maybe to like double up over here, maybe go after the king like this. And yeah, so this is just a very active play in the endgame, and this is exactly what you want to be doing in your games. Bishop to b4, I decide to play rook to c7, going for this line over here. Of course, if I played this move immediately, this wouldn't be too smart, because even something like rook d1, king g2, and here, and I feel like I've just wasted time, right? I'm losing the pawn anyway, so what am I doing, right? So rook to c7, check here, and rook b to b7. And now there is no way for him to really get anything. He has to take my pawn. Rook takes a4. I take here. But my pawn is a little bit more powerful. The one that I take is a little bit more powerful, because now I just decimate everything. And at any point, I am ready to sack a rook, sack the exchange back, because now I'm up 2 pawns in an endgame, and 2 pawns in a rook endgame is almost 100% winning. Winning 100% of the time. Rook to a2. Of course, his idea is to eventually start pushing the pawn. I go rook f6, king g8. I just take another pawn because he still can't push. He would lose the bishop, right? So this is pretty nice for me. I'm just up 3 pawns at the end of the day now, because this pawn will be lost in the future. Bishop to e1 is a nice move, going after this pawn, and I decide to I mess around a little bit. I probably shouldn't have done this, but whatever. I play rook b1, he goes bishop c3, probably bishop to b4 was better here, but then I guess I can even like play rook takes h5 or something, and then I can come back and win the bishop. But instead, bishop to c3, I didn't need to play that move because he wasn't threatening anything. The rook is always defending. Anyway, bishop c3, and now I just go for the correct simplification. Rook b8, king g7, and rook to a8, going after the pawn here and saying, okay, well, your bishop has to stay guarding the pawn, and your rook has to stay guarding the pawn. If you ever move your rook, the first thing I'm doing is taking this pawn. I don't even care, right? This endgame is obviously winning. Always, 100% of the time, I would win this endgame with my eyes closed, hands tied behind my back, and with like a poison dripping down in front of my face where I have to stand perfectly still, otherwise I'm gonna get punctured by a needle full of hepatitis B. So I'm going to win that. Instead, rook a8, a4 is the move chosen. I decide to play rook to f4, going after the pawn, and after the move a3, rook f to a4, going after the pawn again, and bishop to b2. I have a very, very nice way to end the game. Rook 4 to a6. And now it's no longer about the pawn. It's no longer about the pawn. You can push it all you want. I don't care. I'm just going to win your king. Rook a1, check, and rook to b7. I'm threatening a back rank mate, and there is simply nothing to be done. Bishop to g7 is the only move to keep playing. I go rook to a8. If you play rook to king h7, I'm just going to play rook a7, pin the bishop. I'm going to win the bishop, and life is good. And after the move bishop to f8, I simply play rook b to b8. My opponent tries a2. I take here, king to g7, and I simply play the move rook to f4, and he resigns the game after realizing that he has no way to make this pawn do anything. He can give a check, doesn't matter, the pawn is still defended, and yeah. Even if I lost the rook here, by the way, if I went here and you made like this is still completely winning, because I just have way too many pawns, and I think I can beat this, win this endgame against anyone. Yeah. So anyway, that's all I've got for you today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope I found this entertaining, instructive, all the above. This was a little bit of a fun game. Of course, I don't know what came over me with knight to b3. This was just awful, and misevaluating this position the entire time. From like here, from here really, I could not figure this out. For some reason I thought that I was better the whole time, or at least slightly better, and yeah, I guess I have to work on that. In either case, that's all I've got for you today. If you guys enjoyed, what I found this entertaining, instructive, all of the above. If you did, remember to like, subscribe, do all the normal these YouTubers tell you to, and yeah, that's it. Good evening and good night.